You know, I'm always getting myself into a mess, and this one has really turned into be a nightmare. But I just think everybody out there really ought to take a look at this. It's a 2010 F-150 that came in here with a using coolant. So we got to looking at it, and we determined that the intake manifold was leaking coolant. And I'm going to show you what we found along the way, which when you see this mess, you're going to say, oh my goodness. Let me show you what we got going on here. You won't believe it. So this is the intake manifold that came off of it. And if you look right here, you'll see where it was leaking coolant. Right here was leaking coolant real bad. And then right here you're going to see how much gunk is in this cooling system. Look at that. I have, in 45 years, I have never seen one that full of junk in my entire life. That is unbelievable. The back on this side, same way. Look at it. It's just completely full of gunk. So we took the intake manifold and we bought a Dorman. We put a Dorman on it. And it left the shop. We flushed the cooling system as best we could. It left the shop. It never made it a mile down the road and it started overheating. So I got to looking at it and trying to figure out, you know, is the radiator completely plugged full of gunk because it was so bad that I was thinking that the radiator was plugged up full of gunk. But let me show you this radiator here. So to get the radiator out is a real chore. And I took and flushed this radiator and flushed it and flushed it and flushed it. And a guy could probably use it, but I'm not going to. I took the air filter and the splurge tank is all made into one. So I took it out, hot water washed it, washed all the hoses, washed the whole engine off. Flushed the heater core out. You should have seen the rust that was coming out of the heater core. I took it and I flushed all the way through the heater core, flushed all the garbage out of the heater core. So I filled it full of coolant, or filled it full of water until the thermostat housing was completely full. I raised the lower radiator hose up and I filled it completely full, and I reached down here and I grabbed the water pump and I started spinning it. Nothing happened. Good telltale sign when you spin the water pump, if this is level full of coolant and you're spinning a water pump and there's no water pushing out of this thermostat housing, that water pump is not pumping water. So I decided to pull the water pump off. Well, the water pump sits right down here in the front of the engine. You can still see the rust in there. I still got to do some cleaning in there, but I'm going to show you this water pump real quick and let you see what happened to the water pump. So here's the water pump, and if you remember, usually a water pump's got little bent fins on every one of these. Well, this water pump is worn so thin from all of that garbage that the fins, it just rubbed them off. They're gone. There's nothing left of it. I got in there with a magnet to see if I could find the rest of these fins. There's no fins in there anywhere. I flushed it some more, and I didn't flush anything out, but I'm sure that all of this junk, even the thermostat housing, look at the junk in this thermostat housing. I've been cleaning on this thing now for 2 hours trying to get this rust out of here. So once I got the water pump off, I went back and I looked at it some more. And I got to looking at the belt tensioner right here. Doesn't that sound pretty? So it's junk. And then I got to looking at this idler over here. It's junk. This truck is the gift that keeps giving, isn't it? Huh? I got another belt tensioner. I don't have another idler. We're going to have to get another idler. I got a new water pump coming for it. But to look at how I had to pull this radiator out here, when you got to take this core support completely loose here on the front to get it out, oh, what a pain in the butt. And then, for their brighter ideas, they put the wiring harness right on top of the radiator, which is, to me, is a real pain. I don't know why anybody would do that when they know that, you know, you take the front end of the car apart or the truck apart, what you got going on there. But what a pain in the butt. And then they use these fancy little push-in clips that you can't get out. They usually end up breaking off on you. I'll tell you what, I've about had enough. I'm just about to the end of my rope with this thing. But I thought that you would like to see how one little simple problem that came in here with a intake manifold has turned into a nightmare, because now, for some reason, when it left, the water pump was bad. I knew this was making noise. Here's a little better look at the belt tensioner. I want you to listen to it. Doesn't that sound pretty? I'm going to show you my little homemade tool that I found that with. So I took an old radio headset here that's not working anymore. I didn't know what to do with it. I wanted to do something with it. So I drilled it and I put a couple of fittings in here, and I ran two hoses, one for each ear, all the way down to here. So it's about, I don't know, 5 foot long or so. But when you put this on your head and you start listening, you can take this and go right down and set it right next to where you're hearing this funny noise on the front of that engine. And that's how I found this idler being bad. It really does work well for a homemade piece of junk, but if you've got an old set of earmuffs or something that, you know, this set here was just an old radio that didn't work anymore, and you can see where I modified them. But they really do work well when you're trying to find a particular noise on the front of an engine or an idler pulley or anything like that. They really do work well for that. So if you got an old pair, you might make you a set. A stethoscope, one of the metal ones, works pretty good, but this one here I kind of like because you can actually single out just by listening real close and find out what's going on there. So I just wanted you to see the difference between the new water pump and the old water pump. You see all these that are missing on here, but also if you look at the thickness, how thick that is compared to this one that's just ate up and there's absolutely nothing left of it. So just to show you the difference between the two there. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.